Welcome everyone. Welcome back to the recorded line where you get to learn about the people around you during your normal break. Today we have the person who frames the perfect picture for her clients, the royal photographer, Macy Villars. How are you doing, Macy?
Doing good, thanks, Matt.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna go through the questions and hopefully everything will be going good.
Good to go.
Awesome. All right, so the first question is going to be, how was graduating from UNT prepared you for your role here as a performance strategist?
UNT, I would say my first graduation was, because it's an art program, definitely gave me a thick skin. So getting hung up on and stuff like that here is not really as bad as having a professor break some of your artwork because it wasn't good enough, or just being told no for a project or something like that. So you get kind of a thick skin when you go through art school and things like that.
Oh.
The second one gave me more of the knowledge I needed to actually do this job. So kind of a combination of both kind of helped me through to this position.
Okay, man. Man, just literally shattering your dreams.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So the second question. So setting the scene for others isn't foreign to you, correct?
I would like to think it's not, yeah.
Okay. So you are a photographer during your free time, correct?
Yes.
So what are some memories from working as a photographer that you bring into work?
I try to remember how you read people. People typically, when you put them in front of a camera, they're very uncomfortable. Everybody's uncomfortable in front of a camera because it's not just the sense of being watched, you know you're being watched. So a lot of time people start up, with a very fronted nature. They're afraid of talking about who they are. They're afraid of looking stupid, right? A lot of our clients also feel that way because they want to be just as savvy as we are with our display and products and our digital work. So trying to remember how people typically feel in front of the camera. That's how I speak to them over the phone. I usually try not to throw a bunch of jargon at them. I try to keep it light. I ask them if they're comfortable with moving ahead. Sometimes I'll, just randomly describe a word I'm using. So if I say a certain jargon like
CTN.
Yeah, a CTN, I'll say that's a call tracking number. That's how we keep track of your clients. Things like that. And a lot of times if I go, oh, I know, then I know moving forward I don't need to do that. However, a lot of the time clients are very surprised and excited to know, and then as we keep talking, having more and more conversations, they feel better about the products because they actually understand how they work. People just want to know how things go. So once you get them comfortable and kind of learn their family lives and figure out how they work their businesses, they're a lot more comfortable with speaking to you.
Okay.
So I try to kind of bring that across.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you at least seem comfortable in front of these cameras today so far.
Yeah, I'm trying not to look into them.
Okay, all right. So you are currently part of the Crowned Royal team, correct?
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've learned from your team that helps your clients?
Support. A lot of the time, if one of us are having a really difficult call, especially with a client that is screaming, or a BA that's upset for some reason and maybe not be using the best wordage, one of us will flag it down for that person and say hey, you might need to support them on that call. Or we do a lot of debriefing. So if a call goes bad, a lot of us will sit together and kind of review it together, let the person vent for a second, kind of figure out things that we could do better moving forward. But our team is extremely supportive.
Okay, nice. Let's see. So what are some principles that make up Macy as a performance strategist?
Patience. That's something I struggle with in my daily life. I like to get things done fast. And so one of my principles is trying to take a breath between each call, making sure that I'm documenting everything correctly, making sure that I hit every single point. I use a lot of sticky notes. Everything goes on a sticky note. When it's done, I get to toss it away. But until it's not done, it's on my computer. So you'll probably see a bunch of sticky notes around my desk. And just trying to be understanding. Sometimes people have a really bad day, and you just kind of have to deal with it. It's almost like when someone speeds on the road in front of you, cuts you off in traffic. You never know if that person's having a crisis. So you try to put yourself in their shoes and say, well, maybe their mom's in the hospital, or they just had a really bad day at work and they got laid off and they're just trying to get home to, catch their wife before they leave or what have you. You never know what's going on in other people's lives, and it kind of helps you not be as angry about things if you can just kind of put yourself in that frame of mind and pull back a little bit.
Okay, all right. I like that. I like that mind frame.
Thanks.
Let's see. So you're currently running a photo website called MacyAlexPhotography.com.
That's it.
Can you describe some of the pitfalls you faced building the website, and how you overcame them?
Definitely image sizing. That's always a big problem because a lot of photographers don't want to compromise on the way their website looks, especially with their photos. But websites for photographers are typically all about displaying your work. So you want your images to be forefront. But a lot of times with I use Squarespace. So a lot of times the templates only allow you certain sizing parameters. And your website won't load very fast if you have giant files. And people don't want a website that loads slowly. So trying to keep the quality of the images as high as possible while keeping your website running as fast as possible can kind of get tricky. So that's probably one of the bigger pitfalls of my website. It's probably a little bit slower than some of them should be, but I want my images to look good.
Okay, all right. So if you had to make a 5-step guide for businesses who are trying to make maybe a photo website or just a website in general, what would be some of those steps?
Step number one is research. Research your competitors, research the market, make sure you have a niche area there, what makes you unique with your competitors, things like that. Once you have that down, everything else kind of comes in with it. Also, making a business plan. My boyfriend is very good with Excel documents and things like that, so we have a full budget breakdown of absolutely everything so that I don't end up finding myself in a hole 5 years from now because I spent too much money on equipment or, overspent myself with an area of certain need. So definitely, so I guess I would say, research and budgeting. And you really can't go wrong once you have that foundation.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. So to go back to the foundation, so working as a performance strategist, you work with an array of different accounts, right? Can you describe a difficult account and how you handled it?
I have my difficult account. It's been 7 months, and he's calls me once a week, if not more, and he is very, very persistent. He just wants his account to work, and I've looked back through notes of past performance strategists that have had him, and everyone's struggled with him at some point. Business advisors have struggled. I'm actually in the middle of an escalated account issue with him right now. So it's not officially escalated, but it's one of those, Raina's involved and everything like that. I take it day by day, and you just kind of have to, again, understand some people's situations are where they are, and they're probably not mad at you. I know that he's told me he has a difficult home life, so he's probably pushing a lot of that on me and his accounts, but as long as I can keep his phones ringing, I'm doing my job. So you just kind of make sure you're doing your job and know when it's not your fault. So that's kind of my only advice about that.
I like that. Know when it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Can you describe how you handle your optimizations for your account, starting from as soon as you log into the computer down to the point where you mark it as satisfied?
So typically when I look at an account, for optimizations, I always check the budget and lead pacing first. That's what's going to give you your biggest tell of how the account's doing. It's not the only tell, and it's not going to be where you stop, right? So I always check that. If my budget pacing's low, then I know that we're not spending our money fast enough. So I'll then take a check and look at a geography. I'll check the leads, make sure they're valid leads, they're getting where they need to go. A lot of times I'll bring it up with clients on the phone and ask them, hey, we've got a little bit of room in the budget. Is there anything else that you want to promote? And a lot of the time there is. They don't sometimes understand how their budgeting system works. And so that's when we can add in, Susie's ice cream business on top of whatever else they're doing. Just because, again, especially with Wolfpack and the way Kinshu's going to work for us is that we'll be able to actually separate out the campaigns so we can run very different campaigns in the same account. The goal being at some point is hopefully they're both doing so well that we'll have to split off and do, a bigger budget, because that's, we're trying to make money here, right? So we're trying to make everybody money. So rolling back, checking leads, make sure they're valid, making sure that they don't have anything else they want to run. Check geography if we can extend that out a little bit further. So as a service, I've had a couple of people not even know what their geography is. So I like to show my clients that when we talk during our strategy sessions. And a lot of the times they're like, oh, that's too far. Oh my gosh, we could go way further than that. There's different ad groups and things like that you can add in. Keywording can help a lot too with the broad match modifying. I know Bing hit that pretty hard. But I like to use it for Google as well. But apparently it's very different, so again, make sure you do your research just before you start adding keywords. If my lead placing is low, that's typically a content issue. I've found anyway that it's just an issue with your click-through rate. If your lead placing is low, your click-through rate's probably going to be pretty low too. So I always like to take a look at ads, make sure they're written properly, or change them up, do some A/B testing. Very little differences in it, and I try to download an Excel sheet of all of my ads and just kind of do it based side to side after a week after I update them. If there's not any percentage in changing, then I know I didn't do enough.
Okay.
So after that, of course, document it and then close out, move on.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, I like that strategy. It's nice and clean for every single account.
Thanks. Well, and every account's different, right? So it kind of gives you a chance to actually analyze the account and see what they really need. So it's good to try to keep everything green.
Yes, yes, green. So switching from green to orange, Thrive 3.0 was released this year.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your favorite things about the new Thrive?
Definitely the social posting and the scheduling. That is phenomenal. I use it for my own business. I also like the integrations with Zapier, and the ability to sync our Google calendars with it is easier than anything else. Because if I can make an appointment on my phone with a client, then it'll pop up on my calendar. So it's extremely helpful to have that as well.
Okay, awesome. What are some opportunities that Thrive can improve to you as a user?
Probably the way they are able to communicate with their clients. I think that the client card can get a little confusing, especially for business advisors. A lot of them, yesterday I had a conversation with one of my business advisors in Michigan, and she thought the client card was the contact form on the website. Whether that's a cross miscommunication somewhere or what have you, I think that having so many things named similar things is having a problem. Calling them a client card is confusing because I know we're supposed to alliterate to a business card, but a lot of people don't get that. And I think that it might be a little too clever in some places. So I think maybe simplifying verbiage down might be helpful.
Okay. So if you were to have some words, would you be able to give some words to new members joining the floor as performance strategists? What would they be?
Take it one day at a time. It's a lot, especially with our role. And we started out with one job and now we have like 6. So you just have to roll with the punches. It does get easier. Tiffany and all the other supervisors are here to help us. I haven't seen one instance where anyone's really felt attacked. It's a lot. It's overwhelming, especially with all the accounts that we have. But again, it's manageable if you just watch your time, do your work, and take breaks in between to talk and hang out with your coworkers for a minute. It does help to do those things because it keeps you on a good path.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. So the way that the recorded line works is the previous person that we interview asks a question to the next person.
Okay.
So the previous person that we interviewed was Danya, and her question, she actually sneaked in 2 questions.
Okay.
So her question is, what is your strategy to reach to your clients as fast as possible, and how do you pace yourself while being engaged with their clients? Also, what is your stance on pineapple pizza?
That's a lot of questions at once, so I had to repeat this. Okay, so the first one is how do you quickly reach your strategy sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time I have mine already scheduled. That's been helpful because since February, I've been talking to a lot of these clients, especially my monthly clients. Even after when we had the mix-up with the baselines, I was lucky enough to keep a lot of my originals. The ones I don't, so example, today's the first day of the month, right? So all the ones I haven't heard from that I've spoken to before that are my quarterlies, I haven't spoken to since May, I email them first. That's not an attempt, it's just an email saying, hey, it's August, I'm so excited to speak with you this month. What's a good day for you? And that's usually how I start out with my communications with them. So when I do my first call attempts, I then note that email in there and I give them a call and say, hey, did you receive my email on Monday? Or today's Wednesday. And a lot of times they say, oh yes, I meant to respond to you, blah, blah, blah. And again, these are clients I've already spoken to. And then they're like, I'm so sorry, of course we'll call you. Or I'll leave them a voicemail and then they email me back. Having that email as a starting base is so helpful, because a lot of the time if you refer to it in the voicemail, if they didn't see it the first time, then they'll see it and they'll respond. Or they won't, you just have to do a second attempt. But that's one way. The other way is I do four attempts every month. Last month I actually did 5 or 6 depending on the client. I think I only had 7 unengaged clients last month. So a couple that weren't too excited to hear from me by the end of the month anymore. It does feel like badgering, for sure. But again, that's our job. We're here to help them. It's not to hinder them. And if my job is to get them on the phone and talk to them, that's what I'm going to do. How do you pace them on the phone?
Yeah.
I definitely start off with friendly conversation. I know we're trying to keep it mostly to business. However, people's lives are their business, right? And how they are doing in their personal lives is part of my business. One of my favorite clients is Lucy from Opti Staffing. Her son broke his leg earlier in the summer. So when I spoke to her in June, she had just got the cast on him. But thankfully his birthday is actually next week. So they were able to get the cast off so he can be in a boot and have a pool party, because he hasn't been able to swim all summer. But that stuff's important to remember that and follow up with that, because it just strengthens your relationship with the client. I'm not going to be able to give details like that for every single client, right? But I have a base understanding of which clients are which, how they interact, what they want to do, because I have detailed notes on each one of them. So pacing comes in with little tidbits of conversation, making sure they understand the information that we're showing them, walk them through everything, even if they've seen it before. And they will tell you if they're tired of hearing it. They'll say, you know, I don't have that much time today. And then you can just run through it and be done. And sometimes those are just going to be short calls. But the most of them really do want to hear what you have to say, because this is their business. They are spending their money with us, and they want to feel good about what they're spending their money on. Okay. And I think pineapple pizza is disgusting. I actually don't even like red sauce. I eat pesto pizza a lot more than anything else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now here's your chance. What is one question that you would like to ask the next person?
What is your go-to opening line for your phone calls when you're saying you're on a recorded line?
All right. I will ask that to the next person. Thanks so much, Macy, for being on the recorded line.
You're welcome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.